Parliament's legal advisors will now look into the constitutionality of the Independent Police Investigative Directorate Amendment Bill. It follows numerous concerns, including by the DA. We're joined by independent policing researcher David Bruce. David, good evening. Thank you so much for your time tonight. So we're looking at the constitutionality of a bill, and really what's at stake here is the independence of Ipid, as it has been said by those that have criticized the current state of the bill. Your view?
Well, I think maybe it's a good idea to just start off with the question about why does this matter? Why is it important? And I think there are various reasons, but one of the things that one should look at is the process of state capture over the last 10 years or so. And one of the factors that facilitated it was the manipulation of criminal justice agencies. And actually, in the greater scheme of things, one of the agencies that was critical in resisting the efforts to manipulate criminal justice agencies in the process of state capture was Ipid. So, and the issues to do with the independence of the Ipid executive director are potentially critical in relation to, for one thing, whether Ipid is subject to manipulation by the executive.
When we talk about the independence of Ipid, Bruce, I think there are multiple ways we can look at it. So we can look at the organization structurally and the extent to which it is given independent resources, independent capacities to be able to carry out its mandate. But also then the issue of the head of Ipid, which seems to be part of the bone of contention here, that the minister is now going to be given full powers to appoint an Ipid head without necessarily the influence or even involvement of Parliament. I mean, holistically, does it go far enough in addressing the broader issues of the independence, the true independence of this institution?
Yes, well, as you've said, in fact, what the bill proposes is that the powers of the minister and cabinet relative to the appointment of the Ipid executive director be strengthened. So it basically suggests that they be provided with unilateral power to appoint the Ipid executive director. And ironically then, this is part of a bill which is said to be intended to strengthen Ipid's independence. But, if you look at it at face value, the bill does the opposite. And so, in fact, what happened in 2019 was that Parliament passed a bill that provided for strengthening the provisions relating to the removal of the Ipid executive director in order to protect the Ipid executive director's independence. But now this bill would, in effect, undermine any kind of forward movement that was achieved by that bill.
I suppose there are broader streams to sort of take away from this conversation around Ipid and look at other investigative bodies. You have the Hawks that, of course, finds itself in a similar position. The role of
political... Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead, David.
Well, I think the one aspect of this is that in some ways what this bill highlights is not only questions about Ipid's independence, but also questions about other criminal justice agencies, including the Hawks. But one could also raise questions to do with the appointment process for the SAPS National Commissioner, or for that matter for the National Director of Public Prosecutions. Mm-hmm. So the one aspect of this is that, for instance, in terms of constitutional court judgments, the Hawks are supposed to be, an independent agency, which is our primary agency for investigating corruption. But if you look at the existing provisions in the SAPS Act relating to the appointment of Hawks leadership, in fact, those provisions are currently weaker than the current provisions in the Ipid Act. And so, I would argue that, this isn't something that should just be addressed in a kind of piecemeal fashion, that in order to put our criminal justice system on a solid footing, we need to look at cross-cutting legislation that, that provides for some kind of mechanism to ensure that the appropriate people are appointed, to all of these positions.
Independent policing researcher David Bruce, thank you for your time tonight.